The UN's top inquiry accuses Israel of genocide in Gaza, naming Prime Minister Netanyahu and senior officials for inciting mass killings, blockades and expulsions. Charges Israel dismisses as scandalous and fake. Hours later, Israel unleashed its fiercest Gaza City assault in 2 years, flattening neighbourhoods as Washington backed its hardline. Will the world act, or let the charge of genocide fade into silence? A United Nations Commission of Inquiry concluded on September 16th that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza and that top Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, incited these acts. Accusations that Israel called scandalous. The UN report, issued as Israel announced the start of a ground operation in Gaza City, cites examples of the scale of the killings, aid blockages, forced displacement and the destruction of a fertility clinic to back up its genocide finding, adding its voice to a scholars' association and rights groups that have reached the same conclusion.
The Commission therefore concludes that the State of Israel bears responsibility for the failure to prevent genocide, for the commission of genocide, and for the failure to punish genocide against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. On incitement to genocide, the Commission concludes that many Israeli political and military leaders, including President Herzog, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and then Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, had incited the commission of genocide, and that Israeli authorities have failed to take action against them to punish this incitement. This report is the result of almost 2 years of work. The Commission began its investigation immediately on 7th October 2023.
Pillay also urged the member states to cease help to Israel and act against the ongoing genocide.
All member states, especially those with influence over Israel, to effect an immediate halt to the killing and harming of civilians in Gaza, to guarantee humanitarian access to Gaza, and to prevent further destruction of life and suspend arms transfers or financial assistance that could contribute to further genocidal acts. The Genocide Convention was born out of humanity's darkest chapters. Today we witness in real time how the promise of never again is broken and tested in the eyes of the world. The ongoing genocide in Gaza is a moral outrage and a legal emergency. Member states must act now.
However, Israeli President Isaac Herzog, who was also named in the report, condemned the UN findings.
While Israel defends its people and seeks the return of hostages, this morally bankrupt commission obsesses over blaming the Jewish state, whitewashing Hamas's atrocities, and turning victims of one of the worst massacres of modern times into the accused.
Meanwhile, Israel's ambassador to the UN in Geneva, Daniel Meron, called the report scandalous and fake, saying it had been authored by Hamas proxies.
Good morning to you. I'm here to talk about the scandalous report that's being released this morning by the Commission of Inquiry. 3 individuals serving as Hamas proxies, notorious for their openly anti-Semitic positions and whose horrific statements about Jews have been condemned worldwide, released today another fake report about Gaza. The report relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods, laundered and repeated by others. These fabrications have already been thoroughly debunked, including in an independent, in-depth academic study by Bessa. Israel categorically rejects the libelous rant published today by this Commission of Inquiry. It spreads the malicious genocide narrative. The report diverges from the mandate of the Commission, yet again stressing their biased analysis.
Israel accused the Commission of having a political agenda against Israel and diverging from its mandate, and declined to cooperate with it. When asked to respond to Israel's comments, Pillay said,
"I wish they would tell us where we went wrong on these facts or just cooperate with us."
The Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory was established by the UN Human Rights Council in 2021 to investigate all alleged violations of international humanitarian and human rights law. The three-member expert panel is chaired by Navi Pillay, a South African former UN human rights chief who was president of the International Tribunal on Rwanda's genocide. The two other members are Chris Sidoti, an Australian human rights lawyer, and Maloon Kothari, an Indian expert on housing and land rights. The Commission has previously concluded that Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups committed war crimes and other grave violations of international law on 7 October 2023, and that Israeli security forces have committed crimes against humanity and war crimes in Gaza. The Commission said its latest report was the strongest and most authoritative UN finding to date on the war. Meanwhile, Israel launched the main stage of its long-awaited ground offensive on Gaza City on Tuesday, declaring Gaza is burning as Palestinians in the area described the most intense bombardment they had experienced in 2 years of war. An Israel Defense Forces official said ground troops were moving deeper into the city, towards its center, and that the number of soldiers would rise in coming days to confront up to 3,000 Hamas combatants the IDF believes are still in the city. Gaza is burning. Defense Minister Israel Katz posted on X. The IDF strikes with an iron fist at the terrorist infrastructure, and IDF soldiers are fighting bravely to create the conditions for the release of the hostages and the defeat of Hamas. Israel renewed its calls on civilians to leave, and long columns of Palestinians were streaming towards the south and west in donkey carts, rickshaws, heavily laden vehicles, or on foot. During a massive wave of strikes on Gaza City on the evening of September 15th, Israel bombed and destroyed the tallest residential building in Gaza, the Al Ghafri high-rise, as it launched, forcing hundreds of thousands of residents to continue to flee the city. Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory, said that Israel is using unconventional weapons to forcibly evict Palestinians from Gaza City, the largest urban centre in the enclave. Reporting on the IDF offensive, Channel 12 reported that exceptionally intense airstrikes were concentrated in the city's north and west, while the Palestinian Civil Defense said at least 50 multi-story buildings had been leveled in recent weeks as Israeli forces intensified attacks to seize the city. Other neighbourhoods have been reduced to rubble. In Zaytun, more than 1,500 homes and buildings have been destroyed since early August, leaving entire blocks with nothing left standing. Gaza's Ministry of Health said that 51 Palestinians, including 6-year-old twins, were killed in Gaza City in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, hours before the escalation, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio offered apparent backing for the Israeli government's decision to abandon ceasefire talks and use force to crush Hamas. While the United States has maintained that they are seeking a diplomatic end to the war, Rubio told a Jerusalem press conference alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on September 15th that we have to be prepared for the possibility that's not going to happen, adding that Hamas must disarm, disband, and release all remaining hostages immediately as the only path to ending the conflict.